we have? We do?
Oh, wait. We don't have quorum in person, but we can start, Dan.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to the August 5th, 2024 meeting of the Community Recovery Fund Advisory Committee meeting. We have 3 members present in chambers and I'm not used to 2 members, 1 member, 2 members. There we go. Present remotely. So let us get started. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, let's go on to the minutes approval. Does somebody want to move approval of minutes from June 24th? Travis moves, Susan seconds. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Should we do a roll call for the remotes? Yes, let's do a roll call. Randy?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, that's unanimous. Okay, we are next up to contracting updates, and we have Tracy Verrier with us from MRB Group.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good.
Are you the contracting updates, or is that Samantha and Norma?
I will do it.
Okay, very good.
I am prepared. So just really quick, the main thing is that money continues to keep going out the door. You know, an additional $465,000 went out the door an additional $226,000 went out the door since our last meeting in just a month, and additional projects have been completed. So we are now at almost 60% of projects. The funding is complete and 52% of the funding is dispersed. So, almost 60% of projects are complete and 52% of the funding has been dispersed to date. We have not had any other underspent projects come through. We do think that the projects that are in the pipeline now will be using all of their funding. So there was no change in the amount that is available. So we have that $26,712 available. So those are the main updates. It's exciting to continue to see projects come to completion.
Very good, thank you. Any questions or comments for Tracy? We're more than halfway there. All right. Next is reporting and vouchering update. Who's doing that one?
That's pretty much the same update.
It's the same update. Okay, fair enough. You threw it all in there. Okay. Well, let's get on to the one bit of business we have then, which is the recommendation for allocation of available funds. This is what I've been calling the mini round for another round of grants to give out the remaining money, roughly $27,000. Just as a reminder, we invited the next 5 on the list who had not received funding previously, and we also invited any of the current awardees who had requested additional money. That turned out to be 11 possible projects that were invited to send in a shorter, quicker application. So we got those. We did a voting process with all the legislators, and we have come up with a list that we can discuss and vote on and send to the full legislature when we're ready. Tracy, do you want to say anything more about that?
Yep, Randy, I did get your votes. Looks like there's just a miscommunication in there, so I'm adding those in right now, but by all means, continue to start to discuss.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, according to the voting, which like Tracy just said, we might have to tweak a little as we're discussing this, but according to what we have in front of us at the moment, the recommendation would be based on the merged voting, would be for 3 projects to get additional money. And that is Unity House at $8,659, NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental, no, I'm not sure what it is. It is a mental health organization, advocacy and treatment organization, $2,680, and FoodNet Meals on Wheels, $16,272. That was as far as the little bit of money we had stretched. So discussion. Okay, everyone's satisfied with how it played out. We all obviously wish we could do more. Randy.
I'll just go through, I apologize, I sent my comments and my allocations to the wrong people, so I apologize for that. But I will say that I'll tell you what I had. I had 2710 for Unity House, so I think we're on the same page there, or at least for that one. I had 2680 for NAMI Finger League, so sounds like that one was right on. I actually had 10,000 for the Groton Community Health Center, so that would be 5 people then voting for that. And I had 10,000 for St. John's Community Services. So, and then I actually had 4,000 for Brooksondale Market, which I was the only one for that. So, just want to share those.
Thank you, Randy. I see Tracy busily reconfiguring. Deborah's got her hand up. Go ahead, Deborah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we all voted for various and different results, as you can see from the spreadsheet that's on the screen. But if we open this process up to every legislator's vote and Tracy factors all of that in, I think that we're pretty much committed to whatever the result is, and I'm fine with that.
Good. I agree.
Yeah, so including Randy's votes, what that would do, it would knock out FoodNet and leave and either put funding for Groton or St. John's in the mix instead. Because those would both get 5. They're roughly even in how their ratios fell through or came through. So I think that's the question now is what would the group like to do? I think it would come out as, looks like 10,000, or it would put funding in there for both of them, actually, potentially, although the remaining funding would be too low for St. John's. So if we were to move FoodNet out and Groton in, the recommended award would be 10,000 for Groton and then 7,122 for St. John's, but they've requested a minimum of 10.
So it's a little hard for me to see the screen. Are you in that, what you just came up with is FoodNet out?
That would move FoodNet out because they only got 4 votes, whereas these 2 got 5.
And FoodNet had received funding on the first round. Is that correct, Tracy?
They had, yes.
Okay.
As did St. John's, NAMI. Unity House did not.
Well, if I could,
Please.
you know, if there's some sort of a tie, I would be in favor of preferring an organization that hadn't received funding in the first round.
Any other committee members want to speak? Veronica.
Just briefly, could you maybe zoom in on like the left half of the spreadsheet? Yeah, like not our individual stuff, but the rest of it so that maybe I could see it. Thank you.
That is helpful, thank you. Susan.
So
I just wanted to put in a plug for FoodNet Meals on Wheels because I've seen firsthand the importance of that. And there are so many housebound community members, and I think this is an essential service.
Thank you. Randy.
Yeah, I agree with Deborah, and I agree with Susan as well, that it's very important for net, but I also remember they had a very significant fund balance. It was like $900,000, so that's one of the reasons I voted against it the first time. So.
Okay, I would like to just take a moment to look at the screen now that it's a little bit bigger. If we could just take a moment. So I'm a little confused now, or is, oh,
So
okay.
now
I
I've
see.
moved things around.
It's still getting moved, okay.
The recommendation for Groton was the minimum award, but the full award would get us up to 25,459 of the 27. So that's one consideration.
Is there a scenario that you could think of briefly here, where Groton would get less than the minimum and FoodNet would get some of it, the next on the list?
If they got the minimum, we could do 7,000 to FoodNet, about 7,000 to FoodNet.
FoodNet has 4 votes now,
FoodNet does have 4 votes.
so they're not
compared
next
to
on the
St.
list. They're
John's.
tied to be next on the list, correct?
St. John's is tied to be next on the list
At 5?
with 5 votes.
Got it.
I do think FoodNet would take less than their 18,000, just based on the conversations we've had with them.
Okay, so I've heard a few different ideas. I need a little help gathering our thoughts here. What, are we approaching consensus on something or not really? Veronica?
I think it does make sense to follow what I'm interpreting as the process where if there are organizations that got 5 votes or more that collectively would use up the money we have, then we should distribute it among them if we can. I don't think it maybe makes sense to give Groton 15,000, just because looking, sorry, I don't remember, Randy, how much you allocated to it, but everyone else here allocated 10,000 or less. So it seems odd to end up awarding them more than anybody voted to give them, or at least not without like a further discussion on that, given that the voters are not all here right now.
And the one thing we could do is say, we could give this, or we could say the 6,223, the 6,223, the remaining amount to St. John's. And if they do not want to go below their minimum, then allocate it to the FoodNet as a backup.
But the FoodNet is 4, and there's another agency with 4. So I don't know how
So
the FoodNet automatically.
So that's what I'm
gets it.
saying, is to go to St. John's and see if they would take the 6,000, because they said their minimum is 10.
What about,
And-
I'm sorry.
Oh no, see, I'm messing up the spreadsheet now.
Yeah. We can take a few minutes break if that would help this process.
Yeah, if you give me 2 minutes, I can flip that around and show you what I mean here.
Okay, should we formally take a break? Okay, we will, Joan, you got your hand up. You're on mute still.
Thank you. Since we're off topic of the specific numbers, I didn't see the applications. Were there any significant changes between these applications and the originals? I'm just thinking for seeker purposes.
No.
Thank you.
Nope.
Okay, we're going to take a short recess. We'll come back in 5 minutes. Hey, Tracy, can you hear us?
Yep, she should be able to now.
Okay, are you ready for us? If you're not, if you need more time, just let us know.
I'm ready.
Okay, let's.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's come back and reconvene the meeting. And we're back in session. Okay, talk to us, Tracy.
Okay, so there's kind of two scenarios we could go with here, which I've laid out separately. One is to provide the minimum funding for Groton, and then ask St. John's Community Services if they would like the remaining $6,223. If not, if they said, no, we really don't want to do this for less than 10, which was our minimum, we could go to FoodNet and ask them if they would like the 622.3. The other option is to fund the minimum for St. John's, which is 10, because these two are somewhat tied. To fund the 10,000 for St. John's and go to Groton and offer them the 6,223 with FoodNet as a backup.
Tracy, can you speak to why GIAC, the next one on the list, is not equal to FoodNet in these considerations?
Because FoodNet had three people who, GIAC had three people who offered a full award, whereas GIAC had 0 people offering a full award.
Okay, so that was,
Everybody who voted for GIAC gave a partial award.
that was part of the formula used
Correct.
to count the number of people who
So,
awarded the full.
all else equal, if there were 4 people who awarded a project, we look at full partial awards.
Okay.
But that is up to you, ultimately.
Right. Okay, so at the moment, we have two scenarios, one where we offer St. John's the funding, and if they decline, it goes to Groton, I have that right? And the other is, no, it goes to,
No.
so I'm sorry, talk us through it again one more time.
Yeah, sorry. One scenario is to do the full minimum funding for St. John's and offer the remaining funds to Groton. And if they say, no, we can't do it for that amount, then go down the list.
Okay.
The other scenario is to do the full minimum award for Groton and offer St. John's the remaining. So it's just flipping Groton and St. John's.
Okay. And can you remind us, Groton did not receive any money yet at all, and
They did not.
St. John's did?
Did receive money.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so committee members, given that information, what are some thoughts? Deborah, you still have your hand up? I mean, is that a new hand?
No, it's a new hand. Yeah, again, I feel like we should give some preference to organizations that didn't receive funding in the first round. In which case I would give the 10,000 to Groton and then offer St. John's what was left.
Okay. Travis?
I actually agree with Deb to an extent. I would give Groton more. They need 25, is that correct? 10 was the minimum?
10 was the minimum, 15 was the amount they requested.
All right, I would give them the full 15. They didn't get money before.
Right, so that would just leave a little left over to move down the list. 1,000, if I'm reading this right, 1,100 or something like that?
Yeah, 1,223.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to point out it could go to Unity House for $1,000. Sorry.
Oh yeah, you could up Unity House as well.
Okay. Susan?
Yeah, I agree with giving organizations that didn't receive any money, so I would support that.
Okay, so there's two versions of that now. There's a 10,000 version and a 15,000 version to Groton. So so we seem to have consensus on Groton is our preferred because they're new. Are we thinking 10,000 or 15,000? Veronica?
I would think 10 for the reason I said before, which is maybe a process nerd reason that literally nobody voted to give them more than 10,000.
Yes.
And so I don't see how consensus would lead to that unless we did like a second voting round after eliminating things, which I don't think appeals to people.
Deborah?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with the process nerd thing. Well, I mean, I just think that if we second guess the process, then whatever we introduce to the full legislature invites a third guess and a fourth guess. And, I'm not sure that's the best use of legislative time. But if you're going to put a process in place, follow the process.
Susan's joining the process nerd caucus, yeah? Okay. All right.
Jones could also put this 6,000 up on Unity House, who also did not get funding in the first round. This is just an average. This number here is an average of the award recommendations, but.
And that still wouldn't give them the full amount that they asked for, right? Because nobody voted to give them the full amount that they asked for. I just don't want to violate the process.
Yeah.
Right. There is more than one, version of the process, I guess, is what we're figuring out here. Okay, so the one that I see on the screen right now gives Unity House 7,800. This is like an eye exam. I don't know if I got the letters right. NAMI 2,600, Groton 10,000, and St. John's 6,000 and change. That's what I see on the screen. Travis.
So St. John said their minimum is 10. Why are we giving them 6?
Yeah, that would be the thing. If there was 6, we would have to go back to them and see if they would take it. And that's why I mentioned having a backup.
So
this is the option that we just mentioned.
So that would be because that's all that's left to the last one on the list.
Right. So if we're talking about process and you say this is the minimum I can take, why would we give them less than what they said is the minimum?
We did this in prior rounds. We did go back to applicants and ask if they were the next in the list. We did go back and ask if they would take the amount that was remaining.
Gotcha.
Did any of them bite?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so I guess that's one.
So they would be offered less than what they requested, and if they decline it, it moves down the list then.
Or off the list to Unity House.
Unity House.
Which was apparently, it got more votes than anything else, so I would hope that people would understand that that's another way to honor the process.
So this is what that would look like.
But only if St. John's doesn't take what we owe. So it's a backup.
Yep. So this.
Or the other way to interpret that is if they decline it, it would go to the next on the list, which is FoodNet, I think.
Yes, correct. It could be either
Which
this
got a lot fewer votes than the other ones.
Okay, so we're close now I think we're close to agreeing, but it sounds like we still have one more decision here. So we've got the list, we've got the order. If St. John's turns down the minimum because it's below the minimum, what will we do with that money? We still have 2 ideas on the table for that. Unity or FoodNet?
Well, I guess the committee could vote on it.
Okay, yeah, you said Unity, Deborah, you'd prefer to see it go to Unity?
Yeah.
Randy?
Yeah, I agree with that. I like that the remainder would go to Unity as well. And I like that the Groton at 10,000 is right. But I would prefer to see it go to Unity instead of St. John's.
It would be Unity or FoodNet, I think, is the choice. Am I correct on that?
correct.
Okay. And Randy, you still feel the same way? Unity gets your vote, Unity House?
Yep.
Okay. Veronica, you?
So we're offering the 6,223 to St. John's, but if they don't take it, then the question is what would happen? And I would support giving it to Unity as
Okay.
well.
Great. Okay, so we've got consensus on that too. So if St. John's turns it down, it'll be offered to Unity House. Okay, I think we've answered all the questions. We'll get ready for a vote in a minute, but is there anything else we need to work out in this list? Joan?
I'm sorry, I only raised the additional money for Unity House because I didn't want to foresee a contract for $1,000 and all that that would entail. That was the only reason I suggested that. It was not based on merit necessarily.
Yeah. Well, no, that's important too, but it looks like yeah, thank you.
It was a good idea.
Yeah, it worked, everyone agreed. Okay, so any other questions or comments before we vote on this package? Okay, so we'll take a vote, and what we're doing is recommending it to the full legislature. Any last questions about what we're actually voting on? Because I know it changed a few times. Okay, well, we'll do a roll call vote. So are we in favor of sending this to the full legislature? Deborah?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Veronica?
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, that is unanimous. Okay, thank you, everybody. So that is everything on the agenda. Is there any other business that this committee has? This is going to go to for a vote at the full legislature at the second meeting in August. And then we will be done with that bit of business. I don't feel like we need to schedule another committee meeting at this time, but probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 months down the line, we'll need another committee meeting, or maybe even in 2 or 3, something like that. Any other business before this committee today?
I have a question.
Yes.
Did the Cuba Medical thing go through, or did I miss something there?
You didn't miss anything. We're meeting with them in a week or so to get a progress update on them. And then, what's that?
August 15th.
August 15th, there we go. Veronica?
I was going to ask, I guess, more or less the same thing. I looked up the deadline we gave them to decide was August 30th, right? Yeah. So I could imagine potentially needing another meeting sooner, depending on how that goes. Or perhaps I'm misremembering if we fleshed out contingency plans.
The contingency plan is that we're going to use it for county purposes, probably highway equipment or something expensive and easily justified with ARPA money. However, if somebody has a different idea, we can revisit that question, but that's where we landed on that one. Any other thoughts? Oh, Deborah, is your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to flesh that out a little bit.
Sure.
My understanding was that the reason that we thought we could use it for county funds is that if and when Cayuga Med gets this package together, the purposes that they would, the purposes of that program would be such that the county could support it through its own funding.
So we definitely have that possibility where if anybody that doesn't get money through this can ask us for money from another form, and that'll be a different process. That's a regular kind of budget process, full legislature, all of that. Yeah. Veronica.
I think it is important that the $1.5 million goes toward something that could have been funded through the Community Recovery Fund process, at least, like hopefully toward a crisis stabilization center that Cayuga Health runs. But if not that, I think it would be uncool, I'm sure there's a better word, to like put it back into our general fund, because then what it looks like to the broader community is here's a bunch of money that you could use to like rebuild, support our community organizations. We're taking about a quarter of it and allocating it to one of the biggest organizations locally. Oops, there were problems, things didn't get together, so we're gonna just take it back for the county, and that's the end of that, and that is not great. So I get like the spending it on highway things, I'd forgotten about that, makes sense in order to be able to not lose the money and comply with the federal deadlines. But I think that it would be a good integrity, good faith move on the county's part to set aside the same amount for community recovery fund purposes. Yeah.
So you did a good job of explaining the rationale of why we're doing this. We're under deadlines. We don't want to lose the money. And the intention would be to use it for things we would already be spending money on anyway, so that we're saving that money. And we will have to explain that to the public over and over again. And then the speech you just gave about why we need to make sure we do the right thing with it, save that for the full legislature, because that's who has to hear it, not this committee. That's not an insult. I mean, I'm saying that to the world. Okay, so we got a lot of hands up. Norma.
All I wanted to do was point out that one of the main reasons why we are using the community recovery funds is that we are not able to use county funds to support these projects. So if you can remember that we had fund balance that was then repurposed or reallocated to highway and building facilities rather than community recovery, and then the ARPA funds were used to support community recovery.
Okay, Randy.
I agree with everything Veronica said.
Okay, good. Deborah.
But that's why I offered the additional information. As Norma points out, there are things that we can't support directly because of gifting problems and gifting prohibitions. But this Cayuga Med program is something that we can probably support that won't run afoul of the gifting prohibitions. So it's not a question of, oops, we're taking the money back and we're never going to use it for this purpose. We'll just use a different pot of money for the same purpose. We can do that.
Very good. I think, even though it might not sound like it, I think we all agree with each other. All right, last thoughts for today? All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.